until I'd let them drown in their own oil until they're going to be begging us to buy it back. Because I have news for you. I'd be regulating it. I would make it national, just like we have health care that's national, like Medicare, which is, I find it outrageous that they keep saying it's a capital, whatever you call it, capitalistic. Who cares? Then if I was a power company, you say, why am I giving you my electricity for nothing?
This is actually one of my principal issues: is universal health care.
Right.
We need, and I work part-time in the medical industry, so I mean I see it firsthand.
So you say
we need a national single-payer plan. It's the only.
Well, I would just let people join the Medicare and Medicaid programs, and if you could buy into it, or expand it to everybody, and let the federal program. Like
there is a bill. It was originally put forth by John Conyers, and it's been co-sponsored by Kucinich. Right now, it has, I believe, 78 or 79 co-sponsors in the House. It's HR 676. Basically is extending Medicare coverage to every American.
Yeah, but I don't understand, because the system, they keep saying, oh, you could build another system. Really? You got two already. You got Social Security and you got Medicare.
Exactly. I mean,
so
we have socialized medicine. And
the Social Security card acts just like your ID, so that should be your insurance card. So the Social Security card could be your insurance card. When you go to a doctor, you show your Social Security card. If it's really, you really are an American citizen.
Over 40% of medical expenses are administrative costs. And those administrative costs come from, people talk about government bureaucracy. But when you're in the medical business, you don't deal with one bureaucracy. You deal with hundreds of bureaucracies,
and that should be wiped out.
Yeah, it'll
because
cut
one
costs.
thing about Michael Moore, and I know people don't think he's crazy when he did the drug, the healthcare, like he said, and I know Michael Moore from Hollywood when I used to live there. He said even though Canada's and Germany's and everybody's is like bad system, he said try to take it away from them. They'll cut your right arm off.
Oh yeah,
bad is better than nothing.
Yeah,
and I'd rather have our nothing is really the Medicaid system, and the federal government, the federal workers, they have a health care plan. Let people join that or expand that, like Hillary was going to do, because there's no reason why the hired help has a better plan than the people paying you. Yeah. To me, when I had a housekeeper, she wouldn't have health care unless I had it. My hired help is not going to be getting anything better than me.
Well, one of the big problems is portability too. We are, because of the system that we have,
the whole thing comes down to pharmaceutical companies. They are gangsters.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same reason why marijuana isn't legal. Believe me, if I was president of this country, I would be legalizing that faster than you could say pharmaceutical company.
You talk about, you're talking about nationalizing oil too.
Well, yeah.
I don't know. One of the big
it works in all the other countries nationalized oil.
We complain about Iran taking over the embassy in '79, but see, we have a short memory. We don't remember 1953 when they nationalized. Yeah. Well, in 1953, Iran decided they had a democratically elected government, and the prime minister nationalized the oil, and so he was overthrown by the CIA. And I mean, this isn't conspiracy theory. This is a matter of documented history. The CIA engineered Mossadeg's overthrow. Right. We installed the Shah.
Anything good. Anytime, then they execute you.
Yeah.
I mean, Dick Cheney would cut my mouth out if you heard me say I want to nationalize oil. With all his oil wells, I just think the whole thing's a joke. American people should be up in arms, shouting from the rooftops, use our Social Security number, and give us health care. Period. That's a real simple fix. Everyone's got a Social Security card. You get them when I was in elementary school. They gave it to me when I was 3 years old. I said, I'm not even working yet. Am I supposed to go to work? I was only 3. Yeah. They said, no, but you just need it. And so, I mean, that's all you have to do is make the Social Security card the health care card and call it a day. I mean, the people are there. So I don't understand it. And I just don't understand, I would be out enough with those pharmaceutical companies. I've had it with those people. And I would also, like I said, we should be focusing on small amounts of marijuana should be legal. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're going to let people drink and drive, well, I know marijuana smokers don't leave their home. Most of the time they're looking in that refrigerator and back to the TV. And that's their prerogative. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's a good choice, but you're only on this planet for a short period of time, so you should be partying like it's 1999 all the time. You know what I mean? Life is just too short. You get hit by a bus and it's over. I mean, if you're going to allow people to drink...
It's hypocrisy, exactly.
Right.
It's interesting.
And the $50 billion that we're blowing a year here in Lee County just to fight it, in my opinion, once you make it legal, nobody's going to want it in the first place because it's the novelty and the thrill of trying not to get caught that most kids do it anyway.
Kids, yeah. Well,
but once the thrill is gone, it's like alcohol. The minute they had a drink and when they turn 21, now half of them don't even drink anymore. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The thrill's gone.
Yeah. The problem
they get all riled up with it.
The problem is it becomes the drug enforcement becomes a self-sustaining industry.
Right.
Because we're selling military hardware to the police. There's private security companies. Everybody.
Well, then you could,
law enforcement
but that's a
cycle
good analogy. But if you made it legal, then you could use that $50 billion to build better hospitals, build better schools. That has the jobs too. So instead of building police forces, you'd be eliminating some of the police forces, and they could go patrol the schools. And then it just changes the system.
This is a discussion that we need to have. And the problem is anybody who tries to raise this in national politics gets shouted down as a fanatic.
That didn't stop Lincoln from freeing the slaves.
We have we have the highest per capita.
If you didn't have Norma Ray yelling Union, people wouldn't be believing in the Union. Remember Norma Ray? I love that movie. I don't feel that flying then. She's done so good press.
We have, we have over 3 million. We have more people in prison than we have in the military.
That's right, and it's ridiculous because half of them are there for smoking dope, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, for drug-related crimes.
Please.
Yeah, and and
OJ's out.
This is a
the killer is out, but the drug dealer's in. Please.
This is a civil rights issue. It really is.
It is.
And these are things that we have to talk about. And the problem is it takes. Look at Connie Mack. Connie Mack goes over $1 million, probably by the end of this
His
quarter.
foreign plan is living in Palm Springs. That's foreign to him. That's what he's going to tell you. I am doing foreign. I live in Palm Springs. I'm overseas.
Occasionally attack Hugo Chavez.
I'm overseas. Over in Palm Springs. I'm over by the Pacific Ocean. I had to cross the ocean to get there. Because we have the Atlantic. So he's crossing the Pacific. But all I know is, I don't think people really want non-chaos. Because you could solve all the chaos in the world by just doing simple things like legalizing marijuana and government regulating that you have to be over 21 to buy it, like you do booze and cigarettes. That's done. You know what I mean? And nobody's going to twist your arm that you shouldn't. I don't. So that's done. Then using the money to help solve the hospitals, like I was just talking about, and building better schools and taking care of health care, taking the $50 billion and putting it into the Social Security system, so it is a real health care company plus the social. So it's just that because the government doesn't get challenged, in my opinion, that all this keeps coming on. Like I was saying, Connie Mack and he's only been there 2 terms, but Barrett Saunders, who knows how many years he's been in Congress or whatever he's been doing. But meanwhile, if I had that kind of clout, I'd be fighting every day to legalize that stuff. And tough triggers to the pharmaceutical companies. I'm terribly sorry that you want to make $100 on an aspirin, but that ain't my problem.
Well, and here's the issue. The problem is in order to raise the $1 million, $2 million that it takes to get elected every year, is that you have to kiss up to these companies.
Well, that's why they shouldn't be.
This is what we have to do.
That's why I got a lot of votes, and people emailed me saying that's why they voted for me, because I only had $10 in my account.
Yeah.
They were looking for a candidate that had no money.
Yeah.
And that's what you should be focusing on too, because I got 10 emails that they voted for me because I was the least person that would be looking for anybody to help me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
and I am always, and you can ask Damien about this. I am terrible about asking people for money.
Me too. That's why I never asked.
But we have to. We need to raise. We need to raise some money because an election like this, so much of it's name recognition, and if we don't get our name out there, then people aren't going to know who we are and what we stand for in the election. We're talking about 250,000 people that will probably be showing up at the polls in this district.
Well, you get it from everybody.
Yeah.
Collier, right? Because there's only 363,000 in Lee, and then who knows how many are in Collier.
So, congressional.
Well, I have to tell you, I got when I ran this No Parties against Brian, I only had $2,000, $2,000, and I got 40,000 votes. And I think a lot of it, if you can focus it and blame it, you look at how much money they're spending, and they've been there already. You know what I mean? So how much more do you, and all the issues, like that's why I'm shocked.
The issue that we have though is unfortunately, we have to be able to get that message out.
Right.
We don't have a forum to get that message out,
so
that's what we have to pay for. And so this is why what I want to do. We need $3,000 for the publicist. And we need to raise that. If we're going to get him, we need to raise that ASAP.
What do they do?
Basically, what he's going to do is if we can come up with a good publicity stunt, something like the oil rigs. I don't know, like going out to Fort Myers Beach and
look how it looks today, and then we took a picture of the Alaska oil spill from Alcatraz there. Remember when marked whatever they're still letting to get their money. Those people. It was just on the news that the Supreme Court's letting it ride even longer. It's been 20 years already. But then you show Fort Myers Beach, and then you show of Alaska, and say, "Is this what you want here?" Because it could happen.
Yeah.
Because there's really no need for them to be here when they already got 100-something thousand licenses over there, and we should just keep it all in New Orleans, since they're always leaving every 5 minutes.
Something like that.
I don't know who in the right mind would want to live there. Nothing against New Orleans people, but you're underwater, and every other year you got to run like the hell. You know what I'm saying? Just move already. It should just be an oil town for people that work on those rigs.
Well, already 1/3 of New Orleans is gone.
Right.
Come back, so.
And they might as well not even come back, because now there's another hurricane coming. I just heard Havana's coming. Hurricane Havana. So, something Spanish. That was coming. When I got out of the shower, I heard another one. Oh my goodness.
Hannah. And then,
there's somebody else
coming.
There's a new one. That's what I'm saying. New Orleans and that whole seaboard should just be people that work on the rigs and some caterers. That beat them. I don't get it. Well, you know what?
I've had some good times in New Orleans, so I got to disagree.
I know. But Harry Connick Jr. lived there too. But listen, I lived in Brooklyn, but I left when things got bad. Nothing against them, but you know what I'm saying. It's just like you couldn't live in Brooklyn anymore unless you know what I'm saying.
Well, it's interesting.
You're back.
We were talking about this the other day. Have you ever seen the levee system in Holland?
No.
Check it out online.
Really?
I mean,
I heard it's beautiful, or it works really well.
It's amazing. If you wanted to shoot a science fiction movie,
that's the one to go.
You could like hang out like on some of the levee walls, and it looks like something out of the future. I mean, it's.
You know what's even more spookier? Which I was watching the Discovery Channel. Italy over there. With the water going through it. Venice. Underneath, on the outskirts, because I've been to Venice many times, but on the outskirts, they have underwater propellers that make the electricity. Mm-hmm. Now that's got to be spooky, huh? You're there scuba diving looking for the goldfish, and there's a big fan in front of you. But that's how they get the electricity. And I'm thinking that's what we could be doing here. Yeah. With the Gulf. You know what I'm saying? There's so much you can do that you don't need. If people want oil so bad, do it in your coastline. We don't need it. We got sunshine. What part of sunshine don't you understand? That's what I said.
We've got a bad addiction with oil that we need to get.
Not really. That's just, to me is made up like I should stay on my diet. Mm-hmm. Really? I know. But
this country's addicted to oil.
But just like I can go on a diet and lose the weight, like when I showed you how skinny I was in my Star Trek uniform. Yeah. So I only got fat here because of the Chinese when I got here in '98. I discovered there's a buffet. What? There's no food in California. I'm starving. No wonder why they pick on the Olsen twins. There's no food there. It's not them. In California, it's pictures and California cuisine. I mean, that's about the meal is right there like that. Yeah. Costa. Yeah. My parents came. They said, "Where's the rest of the food?" I said, "Over there." They're eating it.
My father lives in California.
So you know.
I have two half sisters, and they grew up there.
And they're probably skinny because there's no food there.
I was staying there, and I stayed with them for like about a month or two. And we would have dinner every night, and we would eat dinner, and then I would take a walk into town, and go to Burger King and get a Whopper because.
That's the thing. I got here and I was as skinny as a rail, and all of a sudden I discovered the Chinese, and next thing you know, who has willpower? But what I'm saying is, getting back to addiction, that is, to me, is the biggest scam because there's so many other ways to do it if you really wanted to do it. And to say that you're addicted when the Germans are already putting solar panels on a car, they won't be needing any oil in the next couple of years.
It's not the American people that are addicted to oil.
No, it's our government.
It's the American government and American society. And see, the problem that we have right now in this country, and this is important, this is a basic philosophy about government that I have, and it sounds almost
correct.
It sounds almost childish to say this, but it's something that needs to be stated. There is a constant struggle between individual private interests and the overall public good.
Right.
And that's, you're always going to have a dynamic balance between that. And the best institutions to take care of individual private interests is the private sector, is the business world, is the charitable world. That's the best thing to take care of individual interests. And the best institution to take care of the public good is the government. Right. And the problem that we have right now
is we pick and choose. Because like we were saying, nationalizing gas should be government. Because if you can government the electric and the phone company and cable, which should be really a luxury item, and they should really say, no, we should be with the private because nobody says you're going to die if you don't have cable. You may, because you're going to miss Nip and Tuck and the Hills, because I would lose my mind if I didn't see Lauren.
I'm not going to be running on nationalizing the oil industry.
I know.
But this is the problem that we have
Maybe
now.
you should, because now with them drilling and this and that, and there's no guarantee that we're getting the oil, it should be nationalized, in my opinion.
Losing the election is one thing; ending up dead is another.
I know. Well, that's what it goes to show you why it should be. Because if you can't talk about it, look at the Iranians and look at Brazil. I mean, they're all they're all living the dream with driving and no problems.
Mm-hmm. But the problem that we have is that the private sector has basically overtaken the government sector, and it's
that's the problem.
It's corporate interest and it's special.
Where's Tom DeLay now?
Yeah. These guys have basically, they've taken over the legislative process in this country, and for a long time now they have taken over the election process.
Right.
A classic example is the presidential debates. The presidential debates used to be managed by the League of Women's Voters. They invited Ross Perot,
and there
was a close three-way.
I voted for Ross.
Yeah, it was a relatively close three-way race.
I love that man.
So who does the presidential debates now? It's a consortium. ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox.
Oh yeah, that balanced news network.
Yeah,
right.
But basically it's a corporate consortium that decides.
Balanced is my diet.
Yeah.
And then I was watching the show last night with the kids who played football. They said they can eat anything. It was on MTV, True Life. Mm-hmm. And the guy's eating cupcakes. Oh, my favorites too. The Hostess Twinkies. You know what I mean? He said it doesn't matter. You got to eat everything because I'm playing football. Maybe that's what I need to do is play football. Because I've already eaten everything. Now I guess I need to. But that's my argument. But you know something? But that's why we need, it shouldn't be. In my opinion, if it was up to me, I would make it, that you shouldn't have any sponsors and any endorsements. It should be grassroots all the time when you're running for president.
Well, what we need is public financing in this country. And the other thing that we need is, we own the airwaves.
Right. What
CBS,
happens now,
NBC, Fox doesn't own the airwaves. What do you mean what happens now?
Well, now that everybody's going to the digital, and it's not over the airwaves anymore because you can't use the rabbit ears. Mm-hmm. So then how can we say that? That's what I'm worried about, because ever since now come February when you need to have cable or whatever to see them, mm-hmm. then because the government, that's what it is. The government's taking from the channel 1 up to 100. Mm-hmm. That's why the Game Show Network was moved from 72 to 130, because everything from 1 to 100 is going to Secret Service.
Everything.
But how do we say that we still own the airwaves if there's no airwaves anymore? That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's a figure of speech, but I mean, cable is still, every channel that you have is still licensed from the government. Everything is still licensed from the FCC.
But we don't own them as a person. That's just the government taxing them. Only ABC, CBS, and NBC are really the ones that we owned as people, because it was the airwaves.
Well, we never owned the companies, but we owned
they had to pay us a royalty to use them.
Right.
But the other ones is that it's just like the phone bill. Now all of a sudden it gets all these taxes on it, but that doesn't mean that the government owns it. You know what I'm saying? It's just that they have
the same principle needs to apply. I mean, just because we're not literally broadcasting over the airwaves.
And that's what I'm saying. So those three networks, if there was no donations and no endorsements and to run for president, mm-hmm. that you cannot accept money from anybody and you can't have any kind of donations. And since it's our airways, that CBS would have to designate an hour every night during campaign season for a mm-hmm. whole year if they want to hold that license, because the candidates don't have any money.
Exactly.
Then if you want to be CBS, and you can make that money back up in an hour when you run my Rosie O'Donnell show again. Well, Who doesn't love Rosie?
I wouldn't ban private donations, but what I'm going to do,
because they can get leaked in. That's what happens. Because then the bad guys say, here's $20, and it's really the cigarette people. You know what I mean? So you ban it because you're running for president. The president's job.
What you want to do is
because you're supposed to represent everybody.
The concern is, and this is the thing. There's a loop. The problem is it's a closed loop. Is in order to get airtime, you have to have money.
But that's what I'm saying. If you're
in
running
order
for
to
president,
get the money, you have to
But you wouldn't
appease
need
the corporate interest.
Not if you're running for president. You wouldn't need the money because it would be a mandatory law by the Constitution that every hour on CBS, NBC, and ABC that's owned by the people, mm-hmm. that NBC can do it from 6 to 7. Well, that's the news time.
You wouldn't have to designate. You wouldn't have to designate something.
They'd have to do an hour every night.
You just have to have mandatory airtime for the candidates.
That's right. Whenever they wanted it was an hour every night. Just like when the president comes on, they have to immediately stop.
You wouldn't even have to do that. You could sell blocks of commercial time. You could say instead of paying for the 30-second ads, everybody gets so many free ads who's in this race, and you break it down per market, per area.
Well, there's a million ways to they get an hour. If they want to come on live or if they want to do a million commercials.
It doesn't have to be an hour, but yeah, basically they get a
Right.
Depending on the candidate.
Just like when the president wants to come on now. You know, when he comes to make a State of the Union, or if he wants to do it.
And then you have public financing, so that everybody, you know, if you have guaranteed airtime and you have public financing, I don't care. They can still take donations because donations. It's impossible to say no donations because I mean you have in-kind contributions.
George Washington ran for president. He didn't have $20 million.
But he didn't have to buy airtime.
Well, nobody says you have to. If there's no money coming in by president, running for president, because you're supposed to represent even the poorest person,
right.
The homeless. So he can't afford you. So that's why my whole thing is about not being any kind of money being given to the guy who's running for president, because like when you live in the White House, you don't even need any money. So like Jay Leno said, where did George Bush spend all this money? Because George Bush said, I don't have any money. George he goes, well, you're not paying for anything. What do you do with your $400,000? Jay Leno says, well, everything's free. So what's he doing with his money? Giving it to Cheney, another oil stock. But my whole point is, when you're running for president and we're designating an hour time on those networks because it's owned by the people and you represent the people, then I don't really think it should be given any time, because then there's ways to the corrupt always get into those.
Well, see, we're looking at just the presidential race in isolation,
right?
Because I mean, don't forget, I mean, I'm talking about public financing and mandatory airtime for everybody from city council and
right.
School board on up. So in all of those elections, I mean, I don't have a problem with because not only do you raise money, but you have like I said, you have in-kind contributions. You also have.
Right.
Do you then say that nobody can volunteer, or that you regiment volunteer time? Because I don't buy the whole thing, the whole argument that money is the same as free speech. I think that's BS. But I do think that there is an equivalency between donating money and donating time. If you're going to let people volunteer some time, you should let people donate money too. So I mean, I don't have a problem. I would never say no private donations. I would regulate private donations a lot more than they're regulated now. But I mean, I would allow for that mechanism to be there. But this is the issue, that this is what we're facing now. Is we can't, in order to change the system, you have to change the election system first. You have to find a way to get around those media requirements. You have to find, because most campaign money goes to buying airtime, it goes to buying advertisement, it goes to buying billboards, press. Print. That's where most of that campaign money gets. So this is what we have to do with this. Is we've got to see if we can figure out a way to use this, a way to use the new media.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
To get to people.
Because it's just like when somebody tells you about a restaurant and they don't advertise, but for some reason they have a gold mine because of word of mouth. That's how people should run their campaign, in my opinion. It's if you're the best candidate and you know what I mean. It's just like I got those. Look, I didn't really spend any money, and I got 4,000 people vote for me. I'm shocked, really. You know what I'm saying? I only spent $1,000, if that. Let's say 500 for signs. Well, 368 for signs, for 100 signs. Eric stole about 20 of them, so I only had about 70 of them out there still. And then I spent like about 400 for that. Then business cards. I bought 1,000 at $200 at a pop, because the first 200 are free, so that's all I would do, and then just pay $5 for shipping. So I maybe spent only about 1,000, not including the registration fee, and I got 4,000 votes, which is pretty interesting.
Now, what we have to do is,
because it's like a restaurant. If it's good, people are going to come word of mouth. Even in that hole in the ground, everyone says it's a filtered hole in the ground.
The difference between a restaurant and politics, though,
well,
if a restaurant is good, people go, they have a nice meal,
right.
They feel good.
Yeah.
With politics, if a politician is good, they show up, they vote for you, and then, obviously...
They'll vote for you again if you're doing a great job.
Obviously, we have a real impact on how things go, but, it's not the same kind of instant gratification that you get from a restaurant. I understand what you're saying.
Right, you know what I mean?
But it's the big...
If you got a good product, it's just like being an actor. An actor is a product, and that's
right.
why I was saying at that campaign, that's why I thought the industry of movies would be great here, because A, we're a right-to-work state, B, you can get into any of the unions that participate in the Film Actors Guild, from hairdresser to costumer to an attorney. Even the attorneys are in the guild. So it creates jobs for everybody. And if you have a good enough product, everybody wants it. Everybody wants to be an actor. Why? They're starving in the street. They have to suffer for their talent, this and that. But everybody wants to be an actor. The only ones that got it easy is the family member. Like the Charlie, the Baldwin brothers got in because of Alex, and the same thing with the Sheen brothers, Emilio and Charlie. If it wasn't for their father, they would be out on the street. The way he's spending money may happen even sooner. With all those divorces and kids. But that's what I'm saying. When you have a good enough product, money is not really the issue. And I understand to get there, you need the money.
Yeah,
I found that out.
But what's difficult, with politics is actually getting people interested enough.
They would be interested. A lot of people are turned off because they can't stand the candidates. Like me, I can't stand either one, Obama or nothing personally. I don't. I like them as people.
But again, you're talking about the presidential race, which everybody pays attention to, and even a lot of people are disinterested in
Well, even the commissioners, I can't stand any of them.
Yeah.
And they got reelected, so how's that happen?
And the reason that it happens is because people don't pay enough attention. People don't pay attention to what's going on in the county commission or city council, state senate, state house, national U.S. House of Representatives, U.S. Senate.
But that's what I'm saying. I think it should be a cap there too, because like Eric spent $95,000 to my one, and Bob James spent $85,000 of his own money plus another $50 that he raised. So there should be a cap on that too, because it's local government, and I feel for the people to hear from you without having to spend that kind of money. You know what I'm saying?
No, I absolutely agree. The trick
it shouldn't be because of the man who has the most money is going to win.
The trick is that you mandate anywhere where it's possible to mandate that the media provides time. You mandate that they provide free time for candidates, and then you have public financing.
Right, that sounds like a good plan.
Because everybody who qualifies gets a certain amount of money off of the public financing.
We got to change the way people look at it, because, like you said, people don't participate. Yes, because they don't participate because they can't stand the candidates. And the reason why they can't stand the candidates is because these are the ones that they really wanted in the first place. Like, look at this primary. I mean, it was a closed primary to just Republicans, so only 58% turned out, and amongst those 58%, it was divided amongst 3 people. So that's the thing. I would say they shouldn't be closed primaries. Even if it was all Republican, then they should just left it open anyway, whoever wanted to vote. Because I have 20,000 people emailed me saying I would have voted for you if it was open. Mm-hmm. I could have beat the mayor and them with all their money. And maybe it's just the rules of the game that need to be changed. They change rules all the time. Even on the Wheel of Fortune, look, it's going to come back to the full season with $1 million spin. You know what I'm saying? Even Price is Right came out with $1 million spin.
If we can introduce $1 million spin in the elections, a big wheel at the polling place,
Sometimes you got to change the rules.
There was actually a state that did that. I remember if it was a state or a county. But somewhere that they had a lotto giveaway for voters,
right? Where
you showed up and you got a ticket. Everyone who voted got a ticket, and then they gave away.
And now even the lotto. Speaking of the lotto, we're going to have the Powerball here starting in 2009. The government, because we could have had it already, but that Jeb Bush, he didn't want it. But now Christmas allowance, so come Jan, we can join that Powerball. Never made any sense to me. You lie with lottery. What the hell's the difference what it is? Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. So maybe it's not just the money. It's changing the rules of the game. Because if the people need to band together, because it's like I said, more people would have voted for me if it was open. And just because it was all Republican, it shouldn't have been closed anyway. I understand that if there would have been a Democrat, that's not the point. The point is, the American way is to vote. And when you close it up for a certain group because it's just your candidate's running, in my opinion, is wrong. I don't care how you look at it. Just like the Republicans shouldn't endorse anybody. You heard that horror story. But my whole point is, sometimes you got to tinker with the system. Just like the wheel now is coming back with the $1 million spin at the bonus round. In the last 2 years ago, they introduced $100,000. Remember, that was the big thing. But they changed with the times, and that's what you got